Hello, world, and welcome to another fantastic show of No Brainer. I'm your host with the most. It's Zach. It's Big Daddy the Goat. How you doing today? Thank you for joining us. We've got a great show ahead of us. Some fine conversation with an entrepreneur friend of mine. But first, let me say hello to my illustrious co-host, D-Rek. What's up, D-Rek?
Nothing. It's just the anticipation every
That's
week
why I
of
did that.
how you're going to preface me is
I
like
thought it was going to be more, honestly.
it's like a feeling combination
He
between
stopped.
like honor, embarrassment, and cringe.
Stop
I do it all the time. That's why I do it.
It's like waiting for 2 seconds with the feeling that it's a 30-second wait of how you're going to stage a comeback at someone.
I don't want to.
And then it comes out and you're just like,
early in the show.
all right, it wasn't so bad.
I mean, I can go back to Sidekick.
No, good. I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. So tonight we have a very special guest. We have my dear friend Rick Copley. He is the
You messed it up. We just talked about this.
Copley. Why did I say?
We literally just got this, and you got it right, and then you went and messed it up.
I do that on purpose all the time.
Sure.
I messed up I messed.
Yeah. Now it's on purpose.
Tries to fix it. Like I did that on purpose.
Just to ask Dr. Acaricker. Derek, come on, correct me.
Who? So what now?
I said just ask Dr. Acaricker how.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Classic.
Thank you. All right. So Rick Copley.
Yes. Good job.
I've known Rick since the beginning of the pandemic, I think is when we met. You and your lovely wife stopped by the dealership and bought a Jeep from me.
Absolutely.
And then we got to chatting, and you told me back then about a food service you had. And I said, let's check it out. Me and my wife were probably, I wouldn't say we were your first customers, but we were early on.
Yeah. You're one of my customers that have ordered the most over the years. I mean, shoot, it's been a good 5 years now. It's good stuff.
Yep. And many of those 5 years, I would say most of those 5 years, we've had meals from Rick and his beloved, and they are delicious. And so now the meal company, if you guys want to look it up, if you're in the Central Florida area, because you deliver anywhere within a
30-mile radius of downtown Eustis.
30-mile radius of downtown Eustis.
South Ocala, North Orlando, DeLand, and everything in between.
EmpowerMealPrep.
Yes.
.com. Check it out. It is good food, macros based, so you know your numbers you're getting, the proper. Your wife was a dietitian, correct?
No, my wife and I had no experience in the food service industry whatsoever. We just started a business based on an idea and then crushed it and figured out as we went along. It's like how entrepreneurs do it, right?
Well,
how was all of the FDA? Do you have a separate kitchen and all that? I mean,
yeah, we actually, it's one of the businesses we run. We have a commercial kitchen too. And so, we actually have a side business where we help businesses for all over Central Florida get licensed. And so that's part of what we do is we help food trucks and hot dog carts and caterers and stuff get licensed. And
that's part of that. That sounds like a really good need.
It is. It is definitely a need. It's quite a good small business for us, actually. But yeah, we own our own kitchen and we do all our meal prep in our kitchen. So we're able to, we do things legally and safely and all that good stuff. Safely.
How many meals do you guys pump out a week?
It depends on the week. Lately, it's between 400 and 500 a week. And, some of them are desserts and some of them are family meals that are bigger and pizzas and all kinds of stuff. So it's quite a bit of work. We do it all.
I remember one back in the early days. I remember the first time you hit 600, you were blowing up my phone, texting me.
Yeah,
dude, we hit 625 this week.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Yeah, we would we order. If anybody's wondering, my wife and I order 8 meals, so we eat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday through Rick. And we get desserts, which are these protein donuts.
People love those.
And we actually cut those in half because we split them. And because, got to stay healthy. And see, now I thought your wife that was my mistake. I thought she was the dietitian behind this whole thing because she does all the recipes, doesn't she?
She's definitely the brains behind the food part of it. I'm the systems entrepreneur vision guy, and she's the food part of it. So she does the food ordering. She does all the meal design, all that stuff. And I do all the back end stuff, the organizing, the paying the employees, and do all that stuff. So,
does she come up with the recipes and meal ideas?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you don't have any hand in that at all, huh?
No, not one bit. No.
Well, I gotta give her kudos because
Yeah,
some of those donuts are just phenomenal,
she's good at what
and
she
some of those
does.
meals. I meant to text you the other day. I had one, and I can't remember what it was. Dadgummit. And it was probably one of my all-time favorites, and it's off the top of my head right now. I have to go back and look at the menu. But
It's part of the essence of entrepreneurship and having success is like you stay in your lane, right? What are you good at? You do that, And so my wife and I, she designs meals. She's always like looking at her phone, like watching videos, like doing all this stuff, trying to figure out what people like and what's good. And she does that. And I just let her be and let her do that. And I do all the computer stuff, all the marketing, all that stuff. So we're good at kind of staying in each other's lanes.
so when I met you, you had just started the meal program,
We're about two
but you
years in,
guys
yeah.
you guys owned a gym
Uh-huh.
and you were doing CrossFit. How did you come up with the idea? Listen, we're CrossFit guys. You guys were in tournaments all the time. I used to follow you on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
then I guess both of you guys had knee problems.
Yeah, we both broke. We're not broke. We broke physically.
And so what made you go over and say, you know what? I don't want to own the gym anymore. I'm tired of CrossFit. I mean, I know you're not tired of it because you're still doing it, but you said, I want to do meals now.
That's kind of a great question. It's a good kind of segue into some good leadership / entrepreneur lessons. We were doing the fitness thing. I don't want to correct you. It wasn't CrossFit. It was along those lines. It was similar to CrossFit. That was kind of it wasn't the brand CrossFit, but we competed in CrossFit.
Right.
Whether or
Okay.
not that makes sense, I'm not sure. It's a semantics, right? But we were doing that, and we were doing the meal prep company. So we had those two things. The pandemic hit, and one of them went one direction and the other one went the other direction. So you kind of, because all the restaurants are closed, the meal prep company really started to take off. And
Right.
the gym had struggled to kind of open back up. And we opened back up, and then we just had some challenges there. And so, when you start looking at things in business, how are things going? And you have to go with what's making you money, what's really driving you. And so the gym was great, but we weren't making any money at it. The meal prep business was taken off. So we said, well, we need to put our efforts there. And so we put our efforts there. And Teresa tore her ACL, so she had some knee challenges there. So that kind of pushed us a little bit out of the competition side. So, but yeah, that's really why we did that. It's not that we don't like fitness or didn't like fitness. I did it for 7 years at a gym, and we kind of had our style and the way we like to do it. And it was doing the clients we had, the customers we had loved it, but it just wasn't a big gym, wasn't a moneymaker. So that's why we kind of pulled out of that and went into the meal prep side of things.
Not to mention you guys met at like 5 a.m. or something.
Yeah, we had like early morning classes and stuff, and
it was evil.
7 years worth of getting up at 5 a.m. 3 days a week. It was too much.
So let's rewind. Where did you grow up?
So I'm from New England, from Massachusetts.
Okay.
Grew up in Massachusetts and Connecticut. Did sports. Went to University of Massachusetts. Go Minutemen. And did some running. I was a runner there. And then graduate school. Ended up getting married, having a kid. Long story short, ended up in Florida in 2005.
What was your degree in college?
Sport management.
Okay.
I actually have a master's
you
degree in
stayed
coaching
along the
too.
lines of health and fitness.
Health and fitness, yeah. That's been my life, for the last 52 years.
Nice. Derek, that was kind of up your alley for a little while.
Yeah, we used to be really big into just the trading and nutrition side, hormone side. Not like professionally, but I did compete, and this is like 10 years ago already. So, but now, I mean, even what I consider casual, I mean, I still live 5 days a week, and between run and walk, 40 to 50 miles a week.
And you're still running marathons, though.
Well, I could do a half tomorrow if I wanted, but even being way overweight. But I mean, no, I wouldn't do a full. I mean, we have done a full, and I don't know, Rick, if you've done marathons at all.
I have, and you know what? It's too much.
You got to have the right body and genetics, and you know Jeff Galloway.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
Jeff
the only between guy. Jeff Galloway and Eliud Kipchoge. $300 Nike running shoes. That even at 39, that's the only way I can do this without getting injured. So usually it's every night and 6-7 miles, and then I'll just go like 0.1 walk, 0.1 run. I'm just doing it for heart rate in total time. I don't care about distance, but Zach, what when you're training running, whether you're running or walking, you're still building endurance to do distance. So, I mean, you don't have to just go out and run a marathon every day to run a marathon. I mean, you do have to have some long runs, but it's not really that. It's like the challenge is keeping yourself from being injured and then having enough of that endurance to actually put that on. So, I mean, yeah, compared to most people, yes, but I would say for about 2 years, we just kind of ate what we wanted to eat for the first time in a very long time. So I put on probably 20 or 30 pounds. And now we're finally doing the diet thing a little more serious too. And actually, I'm just outside of your delivery radius, but I'm interested in your meal plans because we've been doing it for about a month now where we've just been trying different things, Factor and Publix, and really like it because we actually don't end up getting home and eating till about 9:30, 10. So, by that time, it's kind of like, cooking's kind of becomes where the novelty wears off, right?
I think
Say, hey, let Rick do it for you.
one of the biggest challenges would you kind of just hit on in terms of like longevity and like is like you and I spend time in our whatever 20s, 30s, whatever it is, doing certain things, and that's our life in terms of health and wellness. And then for whatever reason that transitions, right? So for me, I was a runner, competed in the sport of CrossFit, but then my knee blew up and I actually had a knee replacement 2 months ago. So I can't run, I can walk. I can't walk that far yet. But, for me, it's like trying to consistently stay consistent, if that makes sense. So in other words, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do 7 miles, but I can walk, a mile and I can lift weights. And so for me, all these years of training, I've been able to kind of train my body to stay in pretty good shape. I'm certainly not now. I'm certainly not where I used to be because I was in really good shape a few years ago, but I'm continuing to move. And I think that's important. I think that's important for everybody. No matter what you do, you need to move your body, right? You need to lift some weights.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get some cardio going on in your life. You need to eat some good food. And so, if you want your quality of life to be anything positive as we get older, and we're in, so you say you're 39. I'm 52.
Yeah, I'm just like, I think
Zach's like
like in that
120.
stage,
Thank you.
somewhere along the lines of between my age and yours, or even before, that smart training is don't get injured, right? Be consistent, and
Absolutely.
instead of lift heavier and run farther, because you're
Right.
going to get injured and then you can't do anything at all. So
it all goes together.
Testament to that.
Yeah,
I'm testament to that because what was it, 6-7 months ago when I was working out and I messed up my shoulder. So, and everybody's told me, Zach, you're not 19. Stop lifting like you're 19. I'm like,
I told you that.
well,
I told you that
I
like
did.
4 years ago. You're like, I want to do this. I'm like, don't do it.
Oh, when I was trying to get to 300.
Exactly.
yeah,
So
that's training like you're 19.
it's really
here's
about
the stupid thing. Here's the dumb thing. I'm doing 20-pound incline dumbbell presses and pop both my shoulders. Like what the heck, man?
So like it's like an example of that again would be like if I told you, man, I'm going to prove to you I can run a half marathon, and then every day I run 10, 15 miles. By the time it came time to prove that to you and run it, I'd be injured. Whereas like just training smart consistently,
right?
I will go out in 30 minutes and I will run a 10K, and I don't want to say they were easy, but I always look forward to it. Like it's going to be enjoyable. So, and it's not a speed thing. It's not a distance. But it will happen today, every single day, because it's more about, how do I stay from getting injured, which to me, like I said to Rick, it's the shoes and the running method, the chopping up the running. And I know, cause I've been injured, my foot, my knee, everything. And I know the amount of running I do now in terms of weekly distance, I would never be able to do in the past at any age without getting injured, without a don't get injured strategy, a consistency strategy. So, I mean, I think the difference is everything, to be honest with you.
One lesson I learned is that you don't need to train nearly as much as we do when we're trying to be competitive and whatnot. But I think the important thing here, and this is, I tie this back to fitness, or tie this between fitness, nutrition, entrepreneurship, all that. It's all about integration. So I was on a Zoom call this morning, a networking meeting, and one of the people in our group was on vacation. And so, so she came on from a cruise ship in Alaska. And so my thought was like, somebody might be like, oh, you're supposed to be on vacation. No. Our work-life balance is a work-life integration. So there's no reason why we can't enjoy our job, right? Because she does like travel planning, whatever. So she's kind of working. But so I think that when you're talking about all these things, all these facets in life, if we could figure out ways to tie them all together, right, is where we're figuring out, okay, so for me, I work at my desk, I sit here, I do a Facebook page management, I do marketing, I do all kinds of stuff. But like I have a to-do list. And part of that to-do list I have on there is work out. And so what I'm doing, I'm checking things off. I'm doing this, I'm doing a call, I'm doing this, checking this, and then it says work out. Well, headsets off, lights off, change my clothes. I have a home gym. I work out. And that's part of my day. It's part of what I do. And it's all integrated together. I eat lunch, I do my things, I have my jobs, I do all these things, but they're all integrated together. So when people focus too much on working out all the time and having these goals and you end up hurt, right? Or burnt out, or you go crazy for 6 months and then you don't do anything for 6 months, and you lose 20 pounds and gain 30, or you lose the same 10 pounds, whatever. To me, life is best when you integrate all the facets of what you do and you move forward. I might do some work stuff.
If you can't integrate your training and your lifestyle, then you're never going to enjoy it enough or have it systemic enough to keep it up, for as long as you want to go. It has to just be a part of life. And then like same goes with rest, right? Like he's like, when do I do a rest day? Well, if you listen to your body and then you just have certain times within the week, 1 or 2 days where, like today I've been at work since 7, so it's like, I'm not going to get weights in today, but that's great because I've done weights for like 3 days in a row. It's time for a rest. And then, so what am I going to do today since I'm not really like act physically? Well, I'm an intermittent fast till I get home, right? And so like it just putting those elements in to say, when is it smart to do this? When is it smart to do that? Makes it like, I think, like fun, and it's normal. Like it's normal to rest. It's normal to train. It's normal to eat well. It's normal to make adjustments here or there. If you've lifted weights and ran every day for 30 days and then you want to go on a 5-day cruise and eat moderate and not do much but light walking and let your body rest, fantastic. You'll come back more refreshed and train harder. It's accepting that, knowing that, and then like being okay with that, and not only okay with it, but like really content with it, I guess.
Well, when I was at the Podfest thing, I went to one where they were talking about organizing your day because it can get overwhelming. You're trying to do this, do this, do this, do this. When you build your to-do list, how many things do you have on your to-do list? Do you set it up by the hour, by the goal?
I have a to-do list that is based upon, I call it kind of a liquid list. So what I mean by that is like, I'll do my list, and if something, either I don't do it or I don't want it, I'll just kind of change the list for the next week. But I have lists based on priorities. And so I know what I need to do. I start with my affirmations. I start with checks of various things, business type metrics. And then, cause I do, one of my main things I do during the week is social media content creation. So I have that. And so I just work my way through the list and get to the end. It's a system that works for me. And again, working out is part of that list. It's not set in stone in terms of time. One of the things we kind of talked about with like fitness and stuff, it's like if you put too much pressure on yourself to do any certain thing in a certain amount of time or a certain weight or a certain distance, right? That could be a law of diminishing returns there, right? It's okay. I'm gonna lift this much weight this many times. We get hurt, right? You hurt your shoulders or whatever, or we skip it and it frustrates us. So for me, I'm just working my way through the list, and I have it's a physical checkoff list. It's right here. If I do something, I check it off with my pen. I feel good about myself.
So the reason I say that, when I was in the restaurant business, I was a very big checklist guy. That's how I ran my store. If you knew me, you knew everywhere I was every hour, because I did circles, I did figure eights all day long, and I had a checklist that I made sure everything was done properly. I did that when I was in the automobile business. I did the same thing. I knew, okay, first thing I need to do in the morning is the blah, blah, blah. And then I got to do this and I got to do this. Okay. One of the things the guy told me, or was teaching the class, was checklists are fantastic. You have to stick to them, obviously. You can't just write them and go, I'll get to it later on. But he said the one thing that people do, and they do that wrong, is they confuse checklists with goals, because goals and checklists are obviously two different things. Checklist is my day-to-day, every day, eat lunch, shave, take a shower, all that stuff. People set goals and they do huge goals like a checklist, and they say that is the worst thing you can do. And as you guys as entrepreneurs, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, because what he was saying is people put 10, 15, all right, what am I going to do in 5 years? What am I going to do in 10 years? He said, no.
I think
3
that's
goals.
really easy. What
You
are
do
your
3
goals, and then
goals.
are your daily checklists supporting that? So if your goal is to get a 6-pack, then your daily checklist has to be like,
I just go up to the
eat
Circle
lunch
K
at
for my
this
6-pack.
nutrient and calories with this. It has to, like you have to say, okay, this is a 10-year goal, so I have 3,650 days. So that checklist every day has to support that in some way, right?
Right. No. But what I was saying was, he said you should minimize it down to 3 goals, and when you hit one, cross it off, and then put the next one on. So you have a like almost like a what are those glass doors that spin around? Anyway, revolving. Thank you. A revolving goals,
Right.
where your
The only problem I
checklists are
have with
set in
that is that
stone.
sometimes it doesn't happen on your timeline. So like you could put 3 goals and one of them can take you a month and one can take you 10 years, or they could nothing could happen for 9 years, and then you would like quadruple your income and travel the world in like 2-year period. So like life isn't just a straight line up, it's a roller coaster. So those are like, I would agree with the goal part. I would just be careful about the accountability of your checklist is non-negotiable. Okay. The accountability of your goals, your checklist has to support it non-negotiably, but they're fluid with their timeline with the big, hairy, audacious goals too. It's like, I might not be profitable in a business for 3 years and then the next year make $1 million. So it's like, I didn't have a 1-year goal of make this. The 1-year goal was like, am I on the right track to hit that, what that goal is in its time? Am I moving the right way? So
Right.
And the reason why I just say that is because if you get frustrated or down, then you won't approach them. So like you can't, it's not all in your time, just the things are in your control are in your time. And you have to be very mindful and wary of that and in control of what you can control and very content with what you can't, and then play your environment and move at the timeline that you're given.
Would you do a 3 immediate goal, 3 5-year, and 3 10-year, and then that way they're not unobtainable? Why can't I talk?
I've had a hard time with it, just like resolutions, because my goal is always to do better stuff every day. So like I don't, again, like to say like I'm going to sell my business in 3 years. Well, not if it's cash flowing a ton with me working 3 hours a week. Then I'm just going to go ahead and let it coast and cruise. So again, with the goal thing, like being fluid, like yeah, my goals are always no ceiling on anything. The sky, like the max that it can be in its category is always my goal. It's hard to just say I'm going to do this in this exact period, because sometimes it doesn't allow you. Sometimes you're pushing when you need to kind of pull and guide, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Rick?
I think I agree. I think that a lot of times goal setting can be kind of Pollyanna, like, okay, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to do this. And a lot of people do that. But goals can be super frustrating if you don't get them by your time. They would say like SMART goals, measurable, whatever. And so, okay, by this time, and if you don't hit it, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm defeated now, right? And so for me, it's kind of it's the same type of thing, like Connie, like constant, never-ending improvement. I always want to be a little bit better. I'm always analyzing kind of what goes on. Part of it too, Zach, is when you talk about like entrepreneurship and kind of running and building businesses, oftentimes you don't know what's going to happen next week. You try to plan for it, and you try to make sure that your systems are in place, whatever. But sometimes things change and goals can change.
Like the pandemic.
Yeah, like a pandemic comes along. I was like, oh, what's happens now? Luckily for me, I was in a business that, all the restaurants closed down. I'm like, I'm still in business, right? So sometimes
you didn't let the gym let down destroy the opportunity of the food service.
Exactly. And I think that, for me,
but if your goal was just the end of year 2020, the gym is going to be this, and the pandemic hit, and you were stubborn to that goal without adapting, then what would have happened? Who's to say?
Exactly. And so, for me, like I have, run several businesses. I do the Power Meal Prep and the Commercial Kitchen. And, if I had set goals, not that I don't set goals, but if I had set goals like, okay, Empower Meal Prep, because it's crushing it, is going to do X, Y, and Z, and just kind of let the kitchen slide. Well, over the years, the kitchen is actually more profitable than the meal prep company. And I didn't expect that. But because I, and you alluded to this, because I focused on, hey, let's be a little bit better today. Let's do this better. What system can I change? How can I do better? So I've been able to create 2 businesses that are doing really well. So I think goal setting, while I wouldn't ever speak negatively about goal setting. The 3, short term, mid term, whatever, long term. I think for me, I'm just literally just getting through my things that I have to do and that I get to do because I know they're going to move my business forward. I'm also have I have like a written list. It's like, okay, if I come up with something that's not on my typed out list, I put it on that list. So I refer to that and work that forward. And sometimes I'll be doing something like, wait, now I want to learn about this, and I'll write it down and just keep on moving forward. And I always am checking every day. I got to check things off that other list. Moving forward is really what's important. It's always about moving the chains down the field, right? And so again, when you're an entrepreneur, oftentimes you just don't know what's around the next corner and what opportunity might come. So you have to just be ready for that, ready for anything.
Now, I would say if you had like specific fitness goals, like I want to run a marathon or I want to compete in bodybuilding, I think those work with deadlines because you're setting an event accountability date, right?
Sign up for something.
But now the challenge is, did you give yourself enough time so that you can get there without being injured or negative progression? Because if you can't, rushing to it, you're going to let yourself down in one way or the other. But for me, like doing a marathon, doing a bodybuilding show, it worked when it had a date. Like when I paid the fee and there was an entry date and I was 18% body fat and it was 16 weeks out, it was like, okay, I know, like I got to get this down to 6. So I got 12% in 16 weeks. So whatever poundage that is, my calories, I got to figure out how to scientifically do this at the right pace and the right rate to get there a little before schedule and then kind of even it out. Same with the marathon. Like, here's our whole training plan. Let's get there quicker, but then not get injured to do it and not overdo the long run. So I think like accomplishing specific things that are individual to you, that are in your control other than injury and stuff is good when you set a date and an accountability event. But when there's so many externals with a business, I think you set a goal, but you don't necessarily like hold yourself to the externals. You hold yourself to what you control, your internal factors, but you can't perfectly predict the externals. So you have to be like, you got to be driving with tasks and like goal focus, but then alert all the time, like alert, what's going on, oh, tweak, just to keep yourself on a straight path. And so, if you don't, you'll derail. And if you do, it could be a year or 7 years. You don't always know. And sometimes it happens all at once. And sometimes nothing happens for 10 years. We have stagnant periods and periods of explosive growth. So
would you say there is a big difference between a goal and a dream?
Yeah. Goals have like tangible, actionable items, in my opinion, to get. I don't know a goal. I don't believe in goals or dreams. I believe in plans. Okay. A dream is just a dream. A goal is a resolution. A plan is an actual, map out path to get where you believe you should be, what your belief is. So I would say there are no goals, there are no dreams, there are only plans, and you have plans to do it or not.
So just words. It depends how you define them, right? Dream and a goal could be the same thing, or they could be completely different. Is a dream a bigger goal? Is a goal?
Right.
Well, I had a dream that I would have. Now this is just a random one, but I dreamed that I would have a GMC Sierra 2500 diesel, and I got one. I had an AT4, top of the line, the best one they made.
Sounds like a goal.
And then oddly enough, I even got a better truck as my next one, which is hilarious. And I never in a million years would have thought that. But you dream for something and then you go, I shot for the moon and I hit a star, but now I'm going to jump to the moon. So I don't know that that was a goal because I didn't have a plan to get me a truck. I just wanted one. And see, now I was taught by my mom, who was a big wig in Amway and a big rah-rah, and I went to all the motivation meetings and all that other stuff. I was taught that you should visualize as you do your daily affirmations, also have visuals of your dreams. Okay, you want to own a house in the Caribbean. You want to live in the woods. You want a big truck. You want a motorcycle. You want a hot wife. Whatever it might be, that you should visualize it, because those dreams, then you turn those dreams into reality. So I don't know that dreams are goals, because how do you turn a dream into a goal? I'm going to have this truck by this date. I couldn't say that. Goals can't be dreams either, because I could say I'm going to lose 20 pounds by next week. That's not a dream. I'm going to do it. Then that's the plan. I agree with you on that. So, I mean, I see, I don't know. It's one of those, I think you could probably line up 100 world famous gurus, Tony Robbins, all those people, and ask them that question, and everyone would have a different answer for you.
I just think if it's not a plan, then dream while you sleep. But why are you fantasizing if it's not a plan? That's how I just see it. Like,
because I
you
turn
know what I'm saying? Like you say, like my dream is to have a truck, but you're not willing to like earn more, work more, whatever. Then you're just fantasizing. You're wasting your life per se. If that's important to you, if that makes sense. That's just how I see it. It's like you either plan and do it or you don't.
The vast majority of the people, like getting back to what Zach was saying about like visualizing and looking at pictures and stuff, the vast majority of the people don't have the wherewithal to connect those dots, right? The vast majority of the people like quit before even, just when it gets hard, they just kind of, and so most people read those books and stuff. They look and kind of visualize, they do it for 10 minutes and then they give up on it. And I think that that's, we have to understand that happens. And there's not as many people that are hard drivers. The hard drivers that works for, but the hard drivers like us, it doesn't matter what we do. We're going to get what we want. We're just going to keep fighting for it. So I think for me, at the end of the day, like, I have dreams, I have goals, and all these things that depending on how you want to define them, but I visualize stuff. I mean, I had, when my wife and I first went to Blue Ridge 3 years ago, I took a picture of this cabin that was awesome, and I
was just going to ask you, is that a dream?
I put it on my phone. I got a painting of it, put it up there. Do I own a cabin that's like a couple hundred yards from that one right now? Sure, I do. Was it because I did all that visualization? I'm going to say yes. So maybe it does work. I don't know, but I think depending on, it's all about action. It really is, and so. For us, and whether or not I want to chat about this or not, I don't know. It's up to you, Zach. But taking that, like, oh, here's something I kind of want to do someday, and you add these intensity factors to it, like my dog passing away and being kind of part of that process, and us really just being intense and loving what we're doing. Where hey, we were going to do this, we're going to do this, and get into action, more action. Those type of things. Sometimes the picture on the phone. The picture on the wall, that can certainly help. But again, hard drivers will do that no matter what. For me, it's just a daily action. I think that most people just don't do the daily actions.
I agree with you. And
if you can't connect the daily actions to the milestones, then your dreaming is
bingo.
Go for it. Dream. Have the dreams you want, but they are just dreams.
The problem I see.
So don't be depressed when you don't get them. You have to do.
I don't get depressed. I don't believe it.
Saying?
Don't.
It's a waste of time.
Keep driving forward.
The problem I see with people, and it frustrates me, and this is why I've shifted into the coaching, and I hate using that word because everybody's a coach and everybody's a consultant. So I'm just going to be Zach. But I'm working towards moving into that spectrum, that realm where I'm going to help people. The problem I see is people don't have the drive, and they've given up. And you could almost, my friend told me this once, look at somebody's haircut and you can tell when they gave up on life.
Hey, listen.
So you see a guy with a poofed hairdo or long hair still, he gave up in the 80s. You see a lady with a bouffant, you're like, dude, what are you, my grandma? Right? And I don't know that that's 100% accurate.
That was definitely an Amwayism.
No, he was not an Amway. It was nothing to do with that. That was
that guy. He gave up on life, man. He didn't.
But you just walk through Walmart and look at people. I hate to say it. You can walk.
Why don't you do a podcast where we walk through with a camera and we ask people why they gave up on life just based on how they look, Zach?
Go with the haircut.
That's going to go over great.
Yeah.
Why did you just come up with that idea?
Hi, I see your beard is unkempt. When was it that you gave up on life? And then I want them to punch you.
No. Yeah. Okay. Good luck with that. But no. You see, it's just like I see people, and you just look at them and like, do you not have any desire to be better than what you're doing right now?
No, a
And
lot
then
of
you
people
see them a
don't.
year later and they're in the same place. And that just irritates me more than anything else.
Well,
Why
there's
does
a
that
reason for
irritate you?
that.
Because people need to light on
That's an
fire.
advantage that gives you, but you have an unfair advantage then.
Why? Because I'm on fire and they're not.
Yeah. What if everyone's on fire? You have no advantages.
I want everybody to be on fire. Then I
Well,
want advantages.
Sure, but you're playing
Here's
God.
what we're going to do, Derek. I'm going to come over your house and I'm going to wallpaper your office with $100 bills. Not real ones, obviously, because I'm not.
Please, if they're real, I approve.
No, I'm not giving you money. I'm not doing it. But I'm going to wallpaper it, and let's see if that doesn't manifest you becoming rich.
It won't, because it doesn't. You chase money, and it doesn't. It runs from you.
Well, listen,
It's
everybody.
like that old Mace lyric from Bad Boy Records, like, "Man, I don't chase money, money chase me."
That ain't true. But listen,
that's true, man. Gratitude makes money chase you.
People ask me a lot of times why I left the car business, or they'll ask me why I'm trying to leave sales and do my own gig and everything. And because it's 100%, money is heroin. You chase that dragon, and I don't care. You make $1 million, then you make 3 million, then you make 10 million, and you just keep wanting more and more. And you can't let it be your idol or your god, obviously, or to me, you can't make it your goal in life, because as my wife and I have said many times, and I don't know if your guys would wife and say this, but we could be just as happy in a dirt mud hut, poor, broke, as long as we're together, that's the only thing, as we could be in a mansion, Now, living in a mansion is obviously much better, but then there's also the problems, more money, more problems,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's true.
I mean,
more toys, more problems, not necessarily more money, more problems.
I mean,
so
Rick,
Zach, I'm going to answer your question for you. And so the reason that people walk around defeated and all that stuff is that most people, they have goals, and at some point, little kids, they tell you, right, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a doctor, whatever, And then what happens is you learn defeat, right? And once you get defeated once, you're like, okay, that sucked. I'm not gonna give as much next time. And then eventually it's just you just give up trying, because you can't get it because you've never gotten it before. And I think the people that succeed in life, there's one of several factors. One, they're either like an athlete, or they came from rough situations where they just had to adapt, or they're just mentally, they have that mindset of, okay, I got to do this. Now, direct sales, I did direct sales. You're talking about Amway. I did direct sales for a long time. And one of the lessons you learn is like, you go ahead and you do, you knock on doors, not really knock on doors. That's just a metaphor, but you knock on doors, no. And you just learn, okay, I just knocked on 100 doors. I got nothing. But then just go home, go to bed, get back up, do it again, right? Makes those calls, right. Whatever. And you learn just defeat. You just get defeated. Okay, I'll take defeat. So when we're starting Empower Meal Prep, there were some Sundays where we're 14 hours in. We're leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting home 8, 9 o'clock at night, just fighting for it, and just getting it done. And my wife and I just one more meal, one more delivery, whatever. You just keep going and keep going. It's like, okay, do we make money this week? No. Okay, just get up and do it next week. Most people don't have the wherewithal to stick through to that. And so people just get defeated. And what do? Like, well, I'm gonna feel a little bit better if I have a 6-pack of beer, or go smoke, or do pot, or whatever, and so people do that kind of stuff, and then think, okay, now I feel, and a lot of it's significance too. Like, some people always want to feel significant, right?
Right.
And if you can't be significant by doing something, you go on social media and you bash people, right? Or you go get high or whatever, and you feel good, and people are chasing that good. And, a lot of times, and people just don't realize that if you want the best, you got to be willing to suffer a little bit, and I think most people aren't willing to do that. So that's why people end up in those situations.
I agree with you, because, and I also agree with you, Derek. Not everybody can be on fire, obviously. I mean, we're not in a dystopian society, but it's just like a pet peeve to me to see somebody that I know they had potential or have potential, and they're just happy making, $35,000 a year. They've been at the same job since high school. And it's just like, when did life just kick the crap out of you and you just said, screw it, I'm not even fighting back anymore. I'm becoming life's doormat. I don't know. That's just maybe because I'm not that person. I won't allow it. I don't know. I remember, we
talked about that before, like self-talk, right? I mean, you
yeah.
just like Rick just said, like, Why is it that popular, good-looking kids who succeed in sports have the confidence and the energy to be successful? Well, when you're winning, you don't know what losing is, right? So, like, losing builds character, but also if you lose too much too soon without the right mentorship or guidance, you develop negative self-talk and you don't have a belief. If you don't have a belief, you got no wind behind your sails. So screw money. You can't be good at and add value to what you're doing. So you'll lose. So I think you have to have enough. You got to win enough to know that you. So in my business, Zach, when we were down this year, I know where we can be at. I know where we've been at, and I know what we're capable of easily, no problem. So cut costs. Don't let it get to me. Take the losses, get your butt kicked, learn something, and then come back with the same belief and be fine. But if you're plowed and if you don't have parents and you're losing at everything, like what you tell yourself you're a failure and you become one.
Right.
Till you change it, and rewiring yourself can be done, but it is not easy. It takes lots of consistency and time.
I will say I have heard, and there's millions of these stories out there, but the underdog, the person who was just, and they give that job that someone said, go try it, and they try it, and they all of a sudden become a overnight sensation success, or within a year or whatever, and they become something they've never imagined. And then those are the people who are going to light the world on fire, because they look, I lived here. Life sucked. And now I'm telling you what it can be. Right. So I mean, I get it. It's just, like I said, maybe because I was raised different than most animals. I was raised in a very successful environment. When I got in trouble, there was beatings, but that was my dad. But when I got in trouble with mom, I had to read books, Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, all these books,
awesome.
and then write a report about it. And it was probably some of the greatest things, that my mom could have done. At the time, I thought I was in hell, but that's what it was.
I think it worked.
Yeah. I mean, I will not ever give up till my bank account is overflowing to where my grandkids don't have to worry about anything. Which some people say is the worst thing I can do is spoil my children, my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Why would I
Don't
not
give them anything?
build a legacy for?
Take it all with you. Take it all with you. Make
Bury
them work
me in
for
the
it.
coffin with all my money.
Hey guys,
That's
sorry,
right.
I got to bounce. You can keep going. I'm kind of having a day where I haven't even done anything yet. So
Okay, I got it.
Rick, very good to meet you. Keep going, please.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. We're gonna we'll keep the show going.
I'm looking forward to seeing the export and whatever, getting it all optimized. So I'll catch you a little bit later.
Start working on those shorts, would you?
Yes. No, you have to.
All right, buddy. All right, Rick. My co-host had to leave, so it's just me and you, buddy.
It's all right, man. I'm all for it. Keep rolling. I like it.
So that's good, because now I could get more into interview mode. So actually, I'm going to be starting a separate podcast where it's going to be called No Brainer Podcasting, where I'm going to be giving people the inside look on how to start a podcast from scratch and build it up. So if you want to do it, let me coach you and train you how to do it. And I'm going to have entrepreneur guests on just like this, but who are more focused on that. So that might be something we chat about, because I know you're a big social media guy. Let's go back. You graduate from college, and did you go immediately for your undergraduate?
So I did, and I want to tell you,
undergraduate.
I did my graduate at University of Massachusetts, went directly to Colorado to do my master's degree. But I will say this: one of the dreams or goals, dream. One of the dreams I always had when I was younger. I remember I used to listen to talk radio, and I always used to envision myself. I want to have my own radio show, like talk, whatever. And I always thought it was like this pipe dream, like it's never going to happen. But then podcasting came along. Gosh, I don't know when, probably 2017, around that. I did my own podcast, did like 150 episodes or something.
Nice.
But it's funny how at the end of the day, it was like this dream, and I did it, and then it was good for a while, but then I gave up on it. But there's nothing wrong with dreams, goals, visions, all these, whatever word you want to use, if it helps move you forward. But the problem becomes,
did you as a kid or a college student or wherever, because you seem to have been on the same track I've been on most of your life, where you're direct sales, you're a people person, you're a go-getter, you're on fire. Did you have a dream board when you were a kid?
No. My dad used to. My dad, funny, like you talk about your mom making you read like Dale Carnegie and stuff. My dad went to this kick where he listened to like self-help books and stuff like that, like tapes and stuff. And he kind of
Right.
imparted some of that vision on me. But I was always the type of person that I was very focused on my athletics. And so now at 52, I don't have regrets. But
Right.
along that line of regrets, I do wish that I'd been more focused on other things. And so I spent so many years and decades of my life focused on athletics. So now I feel like I'm getting my second wind, right? So I did the, college, grad school, coaching thing, competed in triathlons, did all the things, did that for a long time. Eventually, I had knee replacement a couple months ago, and so clearly I can't do any kind of sports anymore. But now I'm like, wait a minute, I have all this energy, all this energy inside of me, and like being fired, shot out of a cannon. Like, hey, now I'm going to put it into helping people, right? Whether it's meal prep or running their social media or coaching or whatever it is, and I'm learning and growing, and it's like now it almost feels like I'm young again and starting like from scratch, like helping people, which is pretty cool. But in any case, yeah. So I went to graduate school, coaching, and kind of went from there. Ended up having a kid and getting married and stuff like that. But life kind of.
What was your first gig out of college?
So that's actually a really funny and cool story. So when I left graduate school, I went home. I was living with my dad, painting houses, just working for the summer. And I was going to move back to Colorado, but I had applied for a bunch of jobs. So they had like these newsletters back then. This is kind of like the internet was there, but it wasn't super helpful. I had this
Right.
newsletter. I sent out a bunch of applications, ended up getting a job at a health club, and they offered me a job. And I said, well, I got this opportunity to make, $1 million a year. Actually, it's $18,000 a year. Thought I was rich. 1998. So I accepted this job. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I forget about Colorado. I'm going to go work at a health club. So I started working at a health club in 1998. That was my first job out of graduate school, working for $18,900 a year. Ended up being like $200 a week.
So, it's funny you say that. So I left Jersey in 94. I needed something different. I got away from what I was doing, and I moved to Texas, and I had what you call the dream job. I worked with rock bands. I toured with rock bands as their security. And my ex-wife used to laugh. She would like, you would do that even if they didn't pay you. I said, yeah, you're right.
Kind of cool.
And if I hadn't had my kid, I would have went on the road. I was actually in negotiations to go with Tim McGraw. He was an opening act for, I remember when I met him, he was with Little Texas. He was opening for Little Texas.
Wow.
And he was really interested in bringing me on his security team, but I would have been on the road. And then we had a baby. So there was no going on the road. But it's funny. I've heard that people who work for Tim still work for him. They've been with him since day one, and they're still with him. So, he's a good guy. But anyway, long story short, my ex-wife got transferred out here. She was a district manager of Victoria's Secrets. They opened up stores out here. She came out here to run the Orlando. So it was either Punta Gorda or Orlando. We'd never heard of Punta Gorda. And I said, I guess we'll go to where Disney is. And I'll go get a job at the big game in town. I'm going to go work for Disney. The mouse is going to take care of me. And I get in there and I give them my resume and I'm all ready. And I'm like, what do you got for me? And they're like, well, right now we're only hiring for a houseman. I said, what's that? They're like, well, at the resort, you drive a tug and deliver all the linens. And then you get the dirty linens at the end of the day and you drive back and forth and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, get my foot in the door. I get benefits.
Opportunity, right?
Right. I said, yeah. And they're like, hey, we're going to start you at $590. I'm like, $590 a week. I was like, that's not bad. Right. In 1994, I'm like, or it was 95. I was like, that's not bad at all. Right. And they're like, no, $590 an hour. I'm like, what? Did you read my resume? But my wife's like, take the job. You need the benefits. We're having another baby, blah, blah, blah. So, I took the job. It humbled me, but I had great opportunity because from there, then I got into the restaurant business, and then that's where I learned the restaurant business. And then I went back into sales, and anyway, yada, yada, yada. But it was just funny that, there was a time I was thinking about that. You talk about that 18-9. I remember there was a time in my life when I was working for a company and the owner came in and sat. We were called the Magnificent Seven. There were 7 leaders, and they sat us down and they went over everything. And everybody got an envelope except for me. I didn't get an envelope, and everybody got their pay rate and everything in there. And it was a raise. People got raises. Everybody's excited, and I'm like, did I get fired? What the heck? And the owner of the company says, no, I have to show you something. Come in my office. I said, okay. And she pulls out and she hands me my envelope. And she goes, you can't say a word, but you're the highest paid because you're the most loyal, dedicated, hardworking guy. She's like, we just love your attitude. You're so happy, blah, blah. I said, okay. I open the envelope, 50 grand a year. I never made that much. I mean,
Wow.
in Florida. Jersey was that's a whole different ball game. 50 grand a year gets you, maybe you can sleep in the back of your car somewhere. But, in Florida, that was a lot of money. And that was in, when was that? Anyway, 2007. In the car business, I had made that much, but it was never a salary. It was all commission based. So
Right.
the one year you make 20,000, the next year you make 50,000, whatever. Or then, like I said, I went home to Jersey in 2005 to help my mom after my dad passed away. And I went to work at my friend's mom's dealership. And I was the number 2 used Saab salesman in America. And I was on track to make probably like 325. I knew that wasn't going to happen in Florida. There's no car businesses down here that you're going to make that money. Matter of fact, when I moved back to Florida, I was only there for less than a year, so I was on track to make it. I didn't make it, but I was on track. And I lived like a king. I took care of everybody. I was just so nice. I mean, I went out of my way. I really believe in being generous and helping people. And the joke is, my day off was Fridays and Sundays. Sundays I spent with my girlfriend. Fridays I was my day alone. And I did stuff at night and then, but I had to get ready for work Saturday. But Friday, my thing to do, I went to Costco and I shopped. That was my alone time. And I'd come home with $300-$400 worth of stuff. And my mom would get furious. What do we need all this stuff for? Right. I moved to Florida 6 months in, maybe. She calls me up and she's like, hey, you think you can come home and do a Costco run? I'm running out of stuff. Come on, Mom.
What?
But, it's just so funny, how little things like those things excite me. And people tell me, I mean, I remember when people used to say, dude, you've had a lot of jobs. You're like the master of, nothing. And I'm like, if I didn't have everything that I did do in my life, I would not be where I am. I would not have the knowledge, and I would not be able to say one day I'm walking away from everything because I know I can do it on my own and start my own business, whether it's through podcasting. If you've listened to any of the pod shows, I'm actually in school for voice acting, and I do my demos next month. So they're going to get me out there, and I'm going to start getting voice jobs. And, they really, really think they love my voice. I don't know why, but they love my voice for like the Discovery Channel or Animal Planet or documentaries. They think I just have that smooth voice where I can just talk about the
It's
giraffe.
like the late night music request show,
The gazelle.
Zach After Dark.
But the real reason we moved here from Texas, and there was a school here called Full Sail. Now, talk about a dream. I wanted to go to Full Sail because I wanted to become an audio engineer. I love music. I've been around music all my life. I can't play it. Just trust me. I can't play an instrument. And if I sing, my dogs tell me to shut up. They start howling. So, but I love music, and I have a very good ear for it. And we came out here, and my parents came down, and they wanted to look at the school. Both of my parents are educators. They wanted to look at the school, and they were going to pay for it if they liked it. And they fell in love. They thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're like, this is all right. It's a legit school. It's not some bunch of potheads sitting out back. Let's record a demo, bro. Anyway. And they said to my wife, listen, and me, both of us were sitting there. They go, listen, the school costs $40,000. We'll either pay for the school or give you 40 to go buy a house. And my wife's like, well, hey, you're not going to school. We're getting a house. I'm like, all right, well, that goes that dream. So I found another school, and that's where I got into my broadcasting. So I was actually, before Disney, I was an on-air personality for a while. That was always a dream, to crack a mic and have hundreds of thousands of people listening to you is just I think is the coolest thing in the world, because I have a face for radio for sure. And that's where another job that I loved so much, it didn't matter what the pay was, and I got humbled. I mean, I made $9 an hour as a DJ. I mean, you can't even support a family. And I was driving to Ocala, and I ran the weekend. I did Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then the night guy, the house party guy, got in trouble. It was a country station. The house party guy got in trouble drinking on the job, doing something. I don't know what he did. But anyway, they asked me to take over the house party. So then I'm driving 5 days a week to Ocala, just like my way. And so they were supplementing my pay because I did the country station and then I did voiceovers for the soft rock station. So on the country station, I was Zach Stevens. And on the soft rock station, I was his brother, Wade Stevens. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that there was just one person. They actually thought we were brothers because we talked differently. And then I became their production manager for their AM station. And anything that went over the air, I had to produce. And anyway, long story short, it just wasn't, the money wasn't there. And so I had to give up my dream. And then that's when I went and maybe that was after Disney. But anyway, I went and they got back into car sales. It was after Disney. Disney was 95, and then I think the radio was like 97, 98, whatever. And I got back into car sales and then chased the dragon. So I mean, sometimes you have dreams, and that was a long way to get to the point, but sometimes you have dreams and you don't realize that dream is very obtainable, and it's kind of silly because it's all right. So I cracked the microphone, I was on air personality, and I made peanuts. It
Right.
was just like, but hindsight 2020, it taught me how to use my voice properly. And now I'm going to actually start making money with my voice. So maybe it was a good dream. I don't know. And I know, so when you did your podcast, let's go back to that. So let's move forward. You did the gym. How many years were you working at the gym?
So we started the gym in 2014 and we shut it down in
No. I'm sorry.
2021.
When you got out of college, you started working at the gym.
Right. Okay. So when I left graduate school, I worked at a gym for a while, and we moved, and I got another job at a gym. And I remember when I got that job, like this is like those moments, like you're like, what? Like I had a undergraduate degree, and I had a master's degree,
Right.
and so I moved to Conway, New Hampshire. Walked into the gym there and like, yeah, well, get a job. And they're like, yeah, sure, you can, do wellness and show people how to use equipment, whatever. And I'm like, what's the pay? They said $8 an hour. It's 1998. I'm like, $8 an hour. I'm like, did you see the part of my resume about having a master's degree? But one of the lessons and I'm all about lessons, Zach. I'm kind of learning from experiences. Like people aren't entitled to a certain amount of pay because they're poor or because they have a car payment or whatever. You're entitled to what you're worth, right? And so, that kind of taught me, it's like, okay, so I make $8 an hour. That's what I'm worth because that's what they're paying me, right? So I got to figure out ways to be worth more, right?
Right.
So one of the things I did, so I worked, it was a little health club, and I did like the fitness thing, like show people how to do the equipment, whatever, clean stuff and fix equipment, whatever. But then I said, well, I'm going to do personal training. So I was a personal trainer as well. So I would train people. And so at the time, they were, I don't remember what they were charging, but they weren't charging a lot. And they were just paying you hourly, whatever. And I'm like, hey, this is silly. Let's do this. And I created this system. So what I did is I said, okay, so here's personal training. So people are going to have packages. And so you're going to pay the trainers based on how much training they do. So if they do, 3 sessions a week, they'll get, $12 an hour. But if they do 5 sessions a week, they'll get 15, whatever. So I created the system. So I created value. So I got more personal training clients. So I was able to get paid more, and I was able to make a decent wage. And so that's a lesson that like a lot of people, especially nowadays, don't understand. They come into a job and they say, okay, I really need to make $15 an hour or whatever. And the reality is like, you're not worth that. You're washing dishes, and it's like, and so you have to create value for yourself. And so that's something I learned early on is that, hey, I want to make more money. So I'm going to create value for myself, and so I eventually ended up kind of skipping ahead a little bit. I ended up working at the YMCA here in Tavares, and I was the wellness director. And great job, dream job, right? Fitness guy. I was a wellness director, did some personal training, like I had a salary, benefits, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to kind of take into account who you are, right? And so for me, I loved the status of being the wellness director. I was in charge, right? But once I did it for a while, I'm like, you know what? I'm really not happy with what I'm doing because I want to work with people, but I want to work with people that I have some alignment. I want to work with people that want to work with me. Like, here's my style. Here's how I want to train people. But the why was like, okay, you need to talk to these, you need to kind of help everybody, whatever. And I'm fine with helping everybody, but I had a little more of an intense style, and I wanted to work with people that wanted that. So I just like one day I just quit. Like I got this job benefits, and I just said I'm out, and I left and just started a boot camp. And so, of course, things didn't go well after that because then I got divorced and my wife was the breadwinner, and that went south for a little while. But, and I pulled things back together. Like I met Teresa, and then we started a direct sales thing and did some other stuff and grew our gym and ended up opening our gym and, grew the boot camp program, opened the gym. And eventually, after 7 or 8 years of not doing vacations, struggling, just struggling to make ends meet, and just terrible, I shouldn't say terrible. It was all a learning experience, but eventually,
Right.
Empowered Meal Prep kind of took off. But, you get to those points where things are going well. You always have to remember when things are going well, how you got there, and I spent, years on the struggle bus, years.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you learn from those experiences. And so you grow and you learn. Once I started, okay, we found some success. Now it's kind of getting back to what we were talking about earlier. Okay, I'm taking my daily actions. I have a dream and a goal, right? And I want to live in my cabin in Georgia. And so when I work with my goal list every day, everything I do is directed to that because I have that vision. And again, whatever
Yes.
word you want to use, vision, dream, goal, whatever, I have that
Right.
in my mind. And so, the whole has been valuable. And we always have to think about the value of the journey because one of the things I kind of like to again stress to people when I start talking about, hey, here's where you can be. I was in those bad places for a long time. And so I'm not one that just kind of rolled into success, overnight success, right? Years of years of struggle. But you have to learn all those lessons, and people have to understand that if you want to have success in whatever you're doing, you need to just get up every day and fight for it. And then, get up every day and fight for it again. You're going to fail. You're going to fail over and over and over again. And you're just going to get knocked down. You just got to get up. It's cliche-ish, but, you get knocked down 7 times, you get up 8. Knocked down 130 times, you get up 131 times. But,
Right.
I think what happens, and we talked about this earlier, is that you get knocked down that third or fourth time, and you're like, man, this is terrible. I don't want to get knocked down again. I'm just going to kind of, hey, I'm good. I'm going to settle for this. And you see that so much. And it's frustrating to me too, and I sit down with people all the time talking about, hey, how can we have success? How can I help you? And people don't want to spend money for services. They don't want to buy stuff. It's like, you have to kind of, it's if you want to grow a business, you got to spend a little money. But at the end of the day, we can all have the success we want. We just have to kind of have that vision of moving forward, taking a step forward, get knocked down, get back up, get knocked down, get back up, move forward. And that's
Right.
what you got to do each and every day.
But I agree 110% with that. 100, because both of us seem like our background is pretty much the same. I mean, I went through it and I was always looking for the better job to make more money because I wanted to keep my wife happy. The problem was my wife left me for a dude who made more money, and anyway, it's just ridiculous. She bankrupted him, and whatever. I don't go into all that, but it
You just
is
did
what it is.
though.
Sorry, I was driving the bus a little
I
bit.
had a first wife too. I'm on number 2. No judgments.
Yeah. And it took a while. And when I found my wife that I'm married to now, who is my rock, my cheerleader, probably just like Teresa is for you, it then you realize what you're worth. And sometimes I knew what I was worth, but she actually affirmed it and said, yes, let's do it, let's go for it. She never hesitated or hemmed or hawed. She's also my yin for my yang, because sometimes I get a little crazy and she's like, all right, settle down, back it off, you're not doing that.
Yeah. You need that too.
Yeah, definitely. She is, because if I married someone who was just like me, it'd be disastrous. We'd be probably in a poorhouse just because we tried everything and went nuclear. But back to what I was saying about people. I'm a people watcher, and I don't know if I watch people because I want to be able to help them or I want to make sure that I don't end up like them. And it sometimes like I look at somebody and I want to sit down and just ask them, like, tell me about your life. I don't want to be rude and be like, when did you give up?
Right. Yeah.
Why did it
Yeah.
suck?
What's
But,
wrong
I
with
just
you?
want to find out. Sometimes you find out really interesting things and they went through some serious hardships and you can tell where they gave up, but then there's other people, when I was in the car business, prior to the dealership you met me at, I worked at another dealership where I ran. He had 4 of them, and I oversaw one of them and helped him with the other 3. And a lot of it was buy here, pay here. And boy, you hear some stories. And then that's where I think that's where my mind gets a little twisted because you hear stuff about how people are living off the government, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I met
It's,
this one kid. This one kid was, I mean, for lack of better terms, I call him a street pharmacist, but he was a drug dealer and he made ridiculous money. He was an entrepreneur. And I used to try and dude, you got potential, bro. He's like, yeah, but you know where I'm at. And I'm like, so get out. You got plenty. You pull out a wad to pay me every week for your car. I know you got cheddar. So why don't you take some of them stacks and move away? Get out of the environment you're in and start over. But that's the problem. Either they're scared, they're used to it, they're so comfortable with the blankie that they have on that they don't realize that there's a better one out there. My wife says this all the time. She hates when I make goals. This is funny. When I make distance goals, like in 5 years, she says, we don't know we're going to be in a year. How many times have we said we're going to do this? And a year from now, it's totally different. And we're buying a new house, doing something else, So I think I want to open people's minds that, dude, you got to get out of your cocoon. But maybe we need the people in their cocoons because they're the worker bees. I don't know.
My wife is the one too that's like, okay, we need to move forward. Like I tend to get a little bit stuck in a rut. But one of the things I kind of didn't share, I glossed over a little bit, is some of the defeats, so to speak, and then that moment where I just said, okay, I'm no more giving up. Like when I moved to Florida.
Tell me about that moment, that spark that lit you.
So when I was when I get that $8 an hour job. I refined, I changed the system, did really well. I did more personal training at that gym. I was crushing it. And then one day I just left. Like I just couldn't handle the bureaucracy anymore. I opened my own place. So that was when I first opened my own business. This is 2003. So I ran a gym for a while. We ended up moving. There's a long story to that, but whatever. We moved here and I started a contracting business.
Did you move to Eustis where you live now?
Yeah, 2005.
Okay.
So I started a contracting
in that
business.
Area. Okay.
Yep. And so I'm a painter, doing my painting thing. 2007 hit. 2007, 2008.
Ooh.
I woke up one day when the phone stopped ringing, 50 grand in debt. We lost 2 houses. Like it was a disaster. So,
yes.
At that point where Florida was, anybody that's listening to this now and says, okay, I lived in Florida 2008. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was really rough. And that's when I took the job at the Y. Like I had left. I mean, it'd been 6 years since I worked at a job. And I didn't ever want to go back. I was like, hey, listen, but I had to because it was just how life was.
Right.
And so I worked at that job for a while. I'm like, okay, I can do this corporate thing. And I just knew, like, I could feel it. A lot of this genetic, I think, Zach, like you're just wired a certain way. And I'm like, this whole corporate America thing, I just didn't like. I felt kind of dirty about the whole thing. And I just had in my mind a vision, a goal, and I didn't know what it was. Like, hey, I want to do my own thing. And I did the same thing like I did the other health club. I walked away. When I left the first health club job, I walked away from a job, had no money. My wife at the time, my first wife, had a decent job. So we're making ends meet, but I had no money to start a business. So I worked all summer painting this one dude's house, right? I painted this guy as a dentist. I painted his whole inside and made like $8 grand, and I opened my own gym. You do what you got to do to get by, right? Successful people do it. Unsuccessful people are not willing to do. So fast forward to it's 2009. I just, again, walked away from the Y. I'm like, I'm done. But that was the moment, Zach. Like I walked away. I'm like, no more. I'm not doing it again. Like I'm not going back to, and there were some tough times. Like I started, like I said, started a boot camp class. I think this was in January 2010. So, and then in June 2010, my wife and I got divorced. She was the breadwinner. And so all of a sudden here I am, like, I couldn't even pay my bills. It was a rough time. But I never went back. And I do remember one time being at the health club, the gym there, the Y, and having somebody ask me, it's like, how'd you have the courage to follow your dreams? And I said, how do you have the courage to not do it? Because to me, it was a no-brainer. It's all I could do was just follow what I wanted to do.
Well, how would you use that story then to spark someone? Would you work with them? Like, say you wanted to become a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw that there. I mean, you've been a health coach. Why not be a life coach, right? So
Sure.
Would you take your hardships and try and empathize with them and showing them, look, this is what we got to do? Or would you just be like, it's time to grab the bootstraps and get up?
Yeah. And so
I get a little frustrated because I've got stories, obviously. Everybody's got stories. So I always joke that I don't have empathy or sympathy. If you want sympathy, you look in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. But,
sure.
But I've learned that maybe I don't understand those words the way they really should be understood. And maybe I maybe I do have more empathy and sympathy. But I just feel sometimes I look at people, or I'm trying to get across to somebody, like when I was in the car business and I'd have a youngling come in and I'm training him. And I'm just like, bro, people are just not going to come to you. It's sitting on your phone all day ain't going to, but he's looking at me going, but that's what you do. But I'm the general manager. So I've already been through the dirt, bro.
Here's the way I look at it.
I played the asphalt rodeo.
Here's the way I look at it, Zach, is that you would never want to tell someone, say, hey, hey, I spent 7 years struggling. You're on year 1, you got 6 more to go, right? That's not what you want to do. But here's what you want to do as a coach is just, hey, I spent 7 years learning the lessons I'm going to teach you right now, so you don't have to do that, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to consolidate this time, the struggle time I had, we're going to put it into a much smaller amount. You're going to have to work a little bit. You're going to have to, make some sacrifices. You're going to have to struggle a little bit, but with some good guidance is you're not going to have to struggle nearly as much as I did, because nobody wants to have to do that. And I think that oftentimes as a leader, the leaders, the ones that have been through it, and leaders, the ones that have led, and they've been there, they've done that, they've been through the fight, the fire, right? And we come out the other side and we can say, hey, I just went through this fire. Let's avoid that. Let's figure this out. Let's work together. And so I think
open that door.
Don't open that door. Yeah. So this door here, I opened it already. Don't go there. But I think that's what you have to do. It's what you have to do as a leader, as a coach. You have to, okay, here's what I did. It didn't work out. So now, like, one of the things I do with my social media company is that, like, I'll tell people, listen, I wore all these hats with this company, right? All these hats. And I couldn't properly focus where my strengths were. And so what I want to do is take one of these hats off of your head. I'll cover this, and then you could focus on where your strengths are. And so if you can do that, and you can kind of, teach people, or let people know that you're going to teach them how to do things better than you did, and say, hey, you're where you are. I'm going to get you here. It took me 7 years. You're going to do it in less than 2, less than 1, right? But you're going to have to just follow my lead and learn the lessons I did. I'm going to teach you. And that's really how you have to transition that story, because you don't want to be like, okay, here's what it took me. You're next. You don't want to do that. Do exactly what I did, But you have to kind of teach people how to maneuver.
You got to get your head kicked in 100 times.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go through the valley of death somehow.
It's funny. Don't go through the valley of death. I've been there. Yeah. That's the training, to be honest with you. But I was telling my kid. He asked me one day. My son said, "Dad, why do you do what you do?" And I said, "Now," and his answer kind of shocked me. I said, "Because I'm trying to build a legacy for you guys, so you don't have to go through the hardships and struggles that I went through." And he goes, "But the hardships and struggles made you better, so why wouldn't you want us to do that?" And I was just like,
it's a dilemma, right?
Ooh, I'm saying I got $5 million here for you, but you want to go through the hardship? What's wrong with you? I don't have $5 million, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that kind of opened my eyes.
I've heard that Shaq's son said to him, like, "Hey, we're rich." Shaq's like, "Dude, I'm rich. You got to
Right.
go out and earn your own money." I
Actually,
think that
Shaq said, number one, I actually heard the interview where Shaq said, my kids think we're rich. And I tell them all the time, I'm rich. You're not. But he said, before they get a penny, they have to go get a college degree. So he makes them earn.
But here's
Now,
here's
sure,
what I think too is instead. So you have time, right? Let's say it's 10 years, and you spend 7 years to get to a certain spot, and then 3 years to expand off that spot. What you're teaching people is, hey, we're going to take this same 10 years. We're going to consolidate the 7 years that I struggled into one for you. Now you have 9 years to find and define your own struggle, right? And struggle is different things. It doesn't have to be financial. It could be, hey, we're crushing it here, but we're struggling because we're trying to go to that next level. It's like, hey, I'm making $10 million a year. I want to make 20, right? That's a struggle, right? It's a challenge. And so you have to kind of articulate those type of things as a coach, as a leader, because different people have different lids. You got to kind of raise that lid no matter where it is. It's like, hey, here's where your lid is. Let's raise up. I mean, I don't want to teach anybody. If I'm talking to somebody that's 23, like, hey, I found success when I was like 45. I don't know, 22 years. I don't want to do that. I want to say, hey, here are the mistakes I made when I was 23. Here's where it led me.
Right.
And I found success, and here's how I found success. But let's do that for you at 23 as opposed to 43.
Right.
Right.
So. And I meant to ask you this, and I'll get back to that in a second. What was your podcast about?
It was called the Fitlife podcast. So I had a branding thing going on. I had a branding thing going on. I had the Fitlife podcast, I had the Fitlife journal, and then the Fitlife meals.
I remember.
There's the branding. And then Fitlife Foods came after us. They did a cease and desist.
Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Weren't they from Tampa?
So we had to change our name.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, I think it was when I was working for the moving company. We used to have those breakfasts.
Yeah, the networking thing. And
was that like a leadership? No, that was business. That was a business.
That was that networking thing that we did for a while.
Yeah, business networking. Yeah, that was a good time. I worked for. I'm still friends with one of the owners, but I worked for a company where I was like the child between divorcing parents, and it was.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I was rough. Terrible. And then it was funny because I told the one owner, "Listen, I'm going to leave," and he's like, "Dude, I'm telling you, you should go. Things are." And then the other owner got mad at me, and wouldn't give me my last check. And anyway, he was a big baby, and who knows? But in hindsight, 2020, I moved on to a better, greener pasture. It was anyway. So that's when I moved over to the fence company, and I've been with them for 3 years, and I'm their number one sales guy. And it's kind of funny. So we're owned, and this is kind of silly, but we're owned by a big parent company. And this is why I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of corporate because I don't like to be micromanaged, and I don't like to be, listen, I do what I do and I'm successful. So leave me alone. If I was doing what I did and not being successful, I get it. Just leave me alone. But now they're setting up, you got to do it this way. And this is the script. And I'm like, I'm not using a script. I'll find another job. I don't care. But anyway, the good news is the COO actually emailed me the other day to check up on me because, I got injured. I don't know if you knew that. And I've been out of work since June, and I won't be back till October.
You got dog bit.
Yeah. I decided to fist fight a Rottweiler. I lost. It's not something wise to do. Anyway, so he emailed me to check on me, and I was like, the COO of this big parent company, not my company. This big parent company emailed me, and I was like, how does this dude even know who I am? And I didn't allude to it in the email back, but I told him, and he's like, dude, we just need our superstar sales guy back down there. Obviously, we're hurting for sales, so you got to get back. I'm like, oh, that's why he knows me, because I put money in their pocket. Okay. Put some money in my pocket. How was that?
That's if you're creating value for the company, you're valuable.
So the injury, my wife and I look at the injury as a positive thing. We look at we always look for the silver lining, right? And the injury, I was on track this year to do 2 million in sales, which nobody's ever done on the residential side down here. It's just Now, there's other fence companies. Maybe their salesmen do it. Nobody's done it at this fence company out of this office. And I was on track, and now, I'm out. I've been out I'll be out for 3 months. And it was very frustrating and disappointing. But my wife was like, there is a reason why. And the funny thing is, I met my now business partner. We have a part owner of a wedding venue in North Carolina, and him and I are starting a glamping up there in up in the Smokies. And we have a mobile cigar bar I'm a part owner of. And I would have never been able to do this stuff if I hadn't
things
gotten
come
bit by the dog.
land in our lap, right?
That's what I was going to bring up. Okay. So you talk about your checklists.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I have learned about myself, and I have struggled with it. And as a coach, I'm going to work with it so people don't. This is one of my downfalls. I feel that is I wouldn't say a hardship, but it's a downfall of mine. I always like to, I hate that in interviews when they ask you, what's your positive? What's your negative? Whatever. Well, this would be my negative. I usually put too many pokers in the fire. I got too many things going on at once, and I can never focus on one. So you try and close 7 things when you should really just close one and then move to the next one. But so how would you train someone to get away from that habit?
That's a great point.
Because I think there's a lot of times people will throw an idea at me, and I'm not a person who likes to crush dreams. So I think, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's go for it. And my wife's like, but dude, you got 7 other things going on. What are you doing?
Yeah, learning to say no is tough. Learning to say no is tough. A lot of times, I mean, some people, I've heard this, people will say no to everything. That way, when they can say, okay, no, and then they can revisit and be like, you know what, I'm going to do that and pull it back out. One of the skills that I think is super important is the ability to focus on one thing at a time, right? But not like ignore stuff in life. Like, in other words, but what I mean by that is that time. So it's 8 o'clock to 8:30. I'm focused on this. This is what I'm doing. 8:30 comes around. I'm no longer focused on this. Press stop, and now I'm focusing on the next thing. A lot of people struggle in that transition, right? So they're doing one thing, and okay, that thing's over, but now whatever is going on with that thing rolls over into the next thing. Someone's irritated by a phone call, whatever, then they go talk to their wife. They're like, you won't believe what just happened in that call, blah, 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 blah. I tend to be pretty even tempered. In other words, like, I don't get too high, too low. I just kind of work through things, do what I need to do, move on to the next thing. My checklist is physical, right? So I'm doing this item right here. I check that off. Now that item is gone. I'm going to the next item, and I'm going to move to the next item. And I'm part of that too. You have to think about, what do you really want? Like, what is your vision? What is your goal? How is what you're doing going to help go to that goal, right? I will have people approach me like about doing stuff with the Power Meal Prep and stuff, and I'll say no because, no. I'll give some people some time. Sometimes I'll quickly say no, but I get asked for stuff all the time, and I'm like, is this really? Do I want this? And it's like no, and I don't worry about it. It's like, hey, that's not for me, And you have to be even keeled like that, and that's part of the learning process of running multiple companies. So I run 5 companies, right? And so each one has its own little attention span at certain times in certain areas. And I have to be able to do that. One of the things I do with the commercial kitchen, it's answering the phone. So I have to learn how to switch off like that. I'll be doing content creation or doing whatever, and doing stuff for my business, what other businesses, phone rings, and look, I'm like, that's a commissary kitchen call. Answer it. Hi, this is Rick. Go through my spiel, hang up, send it, whatever I need to do, back to work. If you can get good at that skill, that transition skill, that's essential. Especially if you're going to be, most entrepreneurial type people are running businesses, you're not just doing one thing, you're really not. You're doing other stuff, and you have to learn how to kind of switch gears and do the thing, and you have to learn how to say no. And that's
it's a shame. It's a shame Derek had to leave because he got caught up in that. He has a Turbo Tent, which is a tent store down in Orlando. It's a gorgeous tent store. It's beautiful. He does a lot of stuff out of there. But he decided at one point, I got to supplement my income because the tent store is not doing so well right now. And he would tell you, so this is, so he went into life insurance. Well, he was so focused on his life insurance that the other business was getting kind of pushed to the side. He actually had to go back to his business and basically give it CPR and revive it. So, I mean, I get it. How, as an entrepreneur, do you prioritize what business is worth saving if something goes sideways?
Yeah, and that's the age old question, right? It's like, how do you really do that? So, perfect example. I'm going to give you two perfect examples. Perfect example number one: we need to land the plane in this time because my time is running short. So there's an example right there. Learn how to say no.
Problem.
So the other thing is part of it, again, kind of this context right here. When you're like, hey, I want you to do this podcast, I'm like, cool, I'm all in. But I had a call at 6:00. I'm like, I can't do it at 6 or 6:30. I can't do it. That call was more important than your podcast. No offense, Zach. But the podcast I love doing, I'm more than happy to donate my time and do this. But I get a business call and I signed up that client. So, when and I didn't want to disappoint you, but I'm like, listen, I can't do it. And here's what happens. And this is perfect because this is what happened. I'm like, you're like, hey, I want to do the call 6:00. And it's something I really want to do. I was excited to do. And I know you wanted me to do it, but I'm like, no. But you're like, you know what? Let me switch the time and that way we could make it work. Cool. Mm-hmm. So I was able to do both because I said no. And I did say no to you, didn't I? I'm like, no, I can't do it. Sorry, yes. I got to call. And so, and I did sign up that person, which I'm pretty happy about. But in any case,
I better get a percentage off of that then,
I do appreciate the opportunity, Zach, to chat. I'm always about chatting business type stuff and fitness and all that stuff. And I do enjoy that. And at the end of the day, I do it because I feel if I can give value to somebody, that's what I'm all about, and when I'm donating my time doing stuff like this, it's all about helping people. So if I can help someone, just one person listen and say, hey, that's a good message. I do value that. I am grateful for the opportunity.
And we are very grateful for you coming on. Two things before we close off, because your time is very important and I don't want to jump on that. Number one, when I was going through my Rolodex on people I needed to invite to this show, you can thank Lorianne because she said, what about Rick from Empower Meals? He's an entrepreneur. And I said, dadgummit, why didn't I think of that? And so kudos to my wife for thinking of you. Derek wants me to start getting like big high wheels on. I like talking to the everyday Joe. Let me work up to the high wheelers, Anyway. And then the other thing is promote any business you want right now. Give us your 2-minute elevator pitch on whichever one or all of them. I don't care. You can promote them all. Send me links and we will make sure they're put in the bio because we like to promote locally owned small businesses. I'll promote any business. I don't care. But if they're a friend of mine, I want to make sure they're promoted.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach, 78% of people would rather do business with a company that has an active and engaging social media presence. And the reality is that most of these people that have small businesses, their social media is not very good. I'm just being honest. And so what I do at DFR Social is I run people's Facebook pages and I do it in a way that helps them to gain momentum in the social media space, to build up their good reputation in the community, and really to brand them so that they stand out from their competition. So I do a free call. I'll do a social media audit, check out what they're going, show people what I do and how I do it. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about that. But it's DFR Social, and I can definitely shoot you a link to how someone can sign up for one of those calls. So that's really my main focus right now, is helping small business owners to grow their social media. So
beautiful. Excellent. Well, Rick Copley.
Love it.
I said it right that time.
You did. Good job.
Thank you very much for being on our show. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I'm sure we're going to have you back. We want to hear more success stories and actually trials and tribulations. So we may do a show on just trials and tribulations. So I think that's a good thing to motivate people to either get out of their way or just maybe they'll stay in the rut. I don't know.
Yeah, man.
But
happy to do it.
Once again, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody watching. We appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell a phone, tell everybody. And until next time, we love you. We appreciate you. We are so glad that you can be part of this. And we just want you to keep on keeping on. So until next time, peace.
Bye.